Hello, my name's Nate. I want to first say thank you so much for having me. I discovered your music a little while ago, and I really liked it. I really liked your sound and your creativity, and I just wanted to learn a little bit about your process, especially since I know nothing about making music, but I love to listen to it. So, what better way to learn more than an interview? So, what's your name?
Yes, my name is Joe Kaz, and I go by Kazki. It is the first and last part of my last name. So my full last name is Kazmierski. So I use Kaz and then Mir, Ski, Kaz, Ski, Kazki. And that's kind of how I came up with that.
So my real name is Grace Smith. I also go by Agnes. For music, it's CHRY POP with CHRY space POP, all caps.
So, how would you describe your music to people that haven't heard it before?
This is always a difficult question because I feel like for me, for some reason, it's really hard to describe my sound just because I feel like it has a lot of influences from all over the place. I guess I would describe it as, I usually say electronic, psychedelic electronic is usually what I use.
I am still kind of figuring that out myself, honestly, because I kind of just go with the flow of it, like making new things, and I try not to be held back in any way. So right now, I'd say most of it is first word experimental for sure, and then secondly, like positive in the way that like hopefully it makes you feel.
Where do you find the inspiration and the motivation to create your work?
Inspiration honestly comes from just a lot of other artists. And kind of motivation, I started making music when I was 16. I got really into like rap and hip hop, and my favorite part of like hip hop songs has always been the beat. And that was like my favorite thing was like the instrumental, and I really wanted to learn how to make that. But inspiration, I just think honestly creating and art as a whole is probably one of the highest human freedoms one can experience. So honestly, there's not like one like point where like my motivation or inspiration comes from. I just like to really create things that I find interesting, because a lot of people say you're your biggest critic, and that's really true for me. Is I'm super self-critical. So when I can make something that I enjoy, like I actually could sit down and be like, oh, I actually made something good here. That feels really great, because 90% of the stuff I make, I'm like, oh, this is garbage.
So everything I ever listened to or any art I ever seen, any people in my life personally or just that I've seen in the media of telling you like you can do anything, like just try it, don't be afraid. But then like musical inspirations, obviously, like they got me into like hip hop hardware and sampling would be like J Dilla 100%, like since I was a kid, like just been obsessed, like yes, awesome, yes. And then also like MF Doom for sure, The Alchemist, just like kind of classic stuff.
So, what does making art mean to you before you even release it for people to see?
For me beforehand, it's before I release it is me just, it's a complete introspection of how do I feel about this? Do I like this? Is this good to me? That's like, I think a huge thing that a lot of artists need to maybe focus on more is don't worry about what other people are going to do with it. Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? I think some people maybe create art for others to be enjoyed, or for it to be ranked by other people. There is sort of a commodification of art, I think. Really, art it's for you. It's meant for the artist. The artist creates the art. If their opinion on it should really be the only one that, in my opinion, matters the most.
So for me, this little machine that I use, which is the SP404 Mark II, just the SPs in general, or any beat making machines, right? Like, I have been into them and known about them and been around people who used them a lot, who wouldn't let me really use them because of the idea that, like, oh, like, no, you wouldn't know what you're doing. Like, you wouldn't know what you're doing. Like, no, you can't touch that. When I started making music on my own and was able to get one on my own, I just realized, like, oh my gosh, like, anyone can do this. And, like, that's the point of music in general is to like express yourself and not compare it to everybody else, right? So when I make music now, it's like, dude, one, it's the biggest way I can like express myself and like take the things I love by mixing them up and like kind of like changing the emotion behind it, maybe, right?
Do you ever get worried about putting your art out there for people to listen to?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I'm always, like I said, I'm always worried the most about me, but yeah, I'm always really worried that like what will people think? Because the thing I kind of want to release next is very, almost like exact opposite of the last EP I released, Dogma. I don't want to release this next thing and have people who have told me that, oh, I really like Dogma, I really like Giant Religion Machine, and then I release this whole new thing, and then nobody likes it at all. I mean, it is kind of scary, but it's never, for me, it's never scary enough to like deter me from making anything or to continue making, because like I said, the biggest satisfaction I get from music is me making something that I enjoy, because like that's the hardest part is, hey, I have this idea, getting to that finished idea is like, I mean, that is the hardest, one of the hardest things I have to do, or I do as an artist, is actually getting there. But I have no qualms with being scared to put that out there. That's never really been the biggest fear for me, at least.
I don't know. It's like it's still a question I ask myself, like, am I afraid to share, or am I just like afraid that I'm not sharing enough? Like I'll like make something and then be like yeah, I want to share it and like let people think what they think, and it doesn't really matter what they think, but I want them to be able to like have an opinion on it or like hear it and like hear something new. But then at the same time, I'm like always question like, but like, should I do it now or should I wait 5 years and like then release it when I know like my full potential? But then that's when you realize like, oh my gosh, like full potential like is what it is now. Like it's what you do now. Like what matters is if you're trying your hardest in that moment, not like necessarily in like the scale of 5 years or however long you want a project to take, like make it now, express yourself to the fullest now because your emotions are valid now.
Is there any philosophies or beliefs in the art or music community that you totally disagree with and you think are kind of harmful to the creation of art?
Definitely the biggest one for me is this idea that the artist has to be dying, willing to die for their art, or they're so committed to their art that they would rather die than stop making it. And I think it puts a barrier of entry on art, and it makes people who aren't, life or death committed to art to not want to do it. And I am also the opinion that art doesn't have to be this life or death thing. You can just make art as a fun little thing. Like, oh, I'm just going to go draw a picture of my friend for fun, It doesn't have to be this thing you put your life's work into. It can just be something you do every once in a while. And hey, if it gets big, if people enjoy it, then that's great. But I think saying that, oh, the artist needs to be extremely dedicated to their art for it to mean anything, or for them to be able to do art or to have the correct motivation for art, I think is really silly.
Like the idea of like, everyone has a sad story. Nobody cares. Like, everyone goes through hard shit. Nobody cares about your shit. So just go to work and work like the rest of us, like, so just do it because nobody cares. We all have hard to go through. And it's like, no, like, yeah, we all have hard things we go through, but maybe the reason we go through those things is so that we can kind of like dissect them and see how they make us feel and share with each other and provide comfort for each other so that we can like make progress, right? Because like emotions run us personally. You need to share your emotions. We need to like talk about it and grow together, and the only way to do that is by honestly like making art.
What's one thing you've learned about yourself or the world around you while making your art that you'd like to share?
I think the biggest thing I've learned is that self-doubt and being too hard on yourself is the biggest hindrance to making good art. You are your biggest critic, and you are the one who's going to shit on yourself the most. And I think that one of the biggest things to do is just do it. If you're like, the biggest thing I worry about when I'm making music is, oh, what if I make a bad song? Like, what if it sounds bad and it doesn't sound good, and it doesn't sound like all my favorite artists? Who cares? Just do it. Try and make a bad song, actually. Go ahead and try and make something that doesn't sound good. At the end of the day, if you want to create art, you're going to have to go through some times that, hey, maybe you're not that great at it and you're going to make some crappy songs. But as long as you're having fun and you're enjoying it and you're growing and you're getting better and better, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it and don't listen to the little voice inside your head that's telling you you're nothing and you're not good. Just go for it. And if it's bad, so what? There's so much, there wouldn't be any good art without bad art. No one starts out as, the greatest artist in the world. You go through the times where you make, crappy music or you make crappy art. And even that in itself is so subjective. I say, if you have an inclination to go make art and do art, do it and try your best to not listen to that little voice inside your head telling you that you're not good at it.
If you think you're like over emotional or different or weird or something, I don't think you really are weird at all or over emotional. I think you're just expressing it, and like it's what we need. So I think that's a good thing. It's important to go out of your comfort zone. It's important to be embarrassed sometimes because that shows that you're maybe trying something new. Like, there's no reason in hiding your knowledge or what you've learned, because like the greatest impact that any art has is what it teaches others, So there's like my relationship with me and my music, what I know, where my music comes from and what it means to me, versus like when I release it, it kind of becomes something else, and it hopefully is a nice segue maybe for some people to get into something they've never done before, like making beats or just anything, like literally anything. Like, biggest thing I've learned is that like anyone can do anything, and it's hard. We don't all have the opportunities to like be seen doing it or like get paid doing it, right? But like, it's still worth doing it if you love it.